Hi everyone, welcome to this video about how to add fractions. So here at Math Tutoring Online, we believe that everything is a lot easier when you love yourself, including math. So I'd invite you to take 2 deep breaths, give yourself a little bit of love, and let's make this math easy. All right, so when you're adding fractions together, the big thing that you want to remember is that you're going to add the top numbers together and the bottom number is just going to stay the same. So if you had 2/5 plus 1/5, the answer would be 3/5 because you're going to add 2 plus 1 to get the 3, and then the 5 just stays the same because that was the denominator in the problem. If you look at 7/4 plus 3/4, that would be 10/4, and you could reduce that and also change it into a mixed number if you'd like, and you're welcome to check out my videos about reducing fractions or converting to mixed numbers if that would be helpful for you. But basically you'd get 10/4 when you add those fractions together. If you do 2/3 plus 1/3, that would equal 3/3, which is also reducible. So you could check out my video about how to reduce fractions like that. And if you do 3/10 plus 6/10, that would be 9/10. And 5/7 plus 4/7 would be 9/7. Basically, you just always add the top numbers together and the bottom number stays the same. Now, it's really important that you have the same denominators or the same bottom numbers because if you were to visualize this as like a fraction of a circle, 2/5 is a circle that's been split up into 5 different pieces and you have 2 of them. And if you're adding that to 1/5, the only way you can add 2 fractions together is if they're talking about the same size of fraction. So like in this case, we have fifths, which means that they're both, like if you were thinking about these as like a slice of pie or a slice of pizza, all of the slices are the same size. And so when you add them together, you have a total of 3 slices, and the size of the pizza, or the size of the slice of pizza or pie or whatever you're working with, is 1/5 of the whole. And so that's why it's really important that the denominators are the same. If you had different denominators, like this problem, where you have fifths being added to thirds, you can't just add them together and say that you have 4 things because 2 of them are smaller than the other 2 are. And so you have to first make them so that they have the same denominator so that you can add together things that are the same size. And the way that you do that is by finding equivalent fractions. So if you haven't learned how to do equivalent fractions, I would recommend watching my video. Pause this one and open up the equivalent fractions video because that will help you understand how that process works more. But I'm going to work through this problem really quickly. So if I want to change 2/5 to be 15ths, and the way that I knew that it's going to be a 15 is because that's the least common denominator. And if you don't know how to find the least common denominator, go watch my video about that because that's a different process to determine what that number is. But after you watch that video, then you'll know how to get this number 15. And if I'm going to convert 2/5 to be 15ths, then I need to use my rule for finding equivalent fractions, which is that I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction by the same thing. So I say, okay, well, 5 times what equals 15? And the answer is that 5 times 3 equals 15. So I'd multiply the bottom by 3, and then I also need to multiply the top by 3, which tells me that 2/5 is equivalent to 6/15. And what that basically means is that I split up each one of these things into thirds. So instead of having 5 slices of pie or pizza or whatever we're talking about, I now have 15 slices. And the 2 bigger slices that I used to have are now 6 smaller slices. but it's still the same amount because 2/5 and 6/15 are still equivalent to each other. And then I would do the same process for the 2/3. So I would say 2/3 equals how many 15ths? And I'd ask myself, okay, 3 times what equals 15? And I'd say, well, 3 times 5 equals 15. And then I'd multiply the top by 5 as well, which would give me 10/15ths. And what I basically did there was I split up my thirds into fifths. So I split up each of these thirds into fifths, which gave me a total of 15 slices in the entire circle. And the slices that used to be 2 really big slices are now 10 of those smaller slices. But these slices are all 1/15 now, and that allows me to add them together. And so if I take 6 of those smaller slices plus 10 slices that are the exact same size, then that tells me that I have 16/15ths of this circle. And if you wanted to, you could reduce it or change it into a mixed number. If you have multiple fractions, then you have to find a common denominator that works for all of the denominators. So again, you can watch my how to find the least common denominator video to learn how to do that. But basically, the common denominator here would be 30. And I would go through each fraction and find an equivalent fraction that is equal to the original. So in this case, I would say, okay, 5 times what equals 30? Well, that's 6. So that means I'm going to be splitting up each of these fifths into sixths. And those are like super tiny slices. So I might not get my drawing completely correct, but you can get the basic idea that I'm splitting up each one of these fifths up into sixths. And that means that my 3 old slices are now 18 of these little teeny slices, because 3 times 6 equals 18. And then I do the same thing for my next problem. I'd say, okay, well, if I have thirds and I'm trying to turn them into 30ths, what do I need to multiply by? And I would need to multiply it by 10, because 3 times 10 is 30. And so when I multiply 3 times 10, I'm basically splitting up these thirds into 10 little slices, which means I have a total of 30 slices altogether. My drawing is getting like worse and worse, but we'll just go with it. And basically these 2 slices that used to be really big, like 2/3, they're now 20/30ths because they all got split into 10 little pieces. And so I get 20/30ths. And then I would do the same thing for the 2, and I would say 2 times what equals 30. That's going to be 15, so I'm going to split up this half into like 15 little slices, pretending like they're equally sized, which obviously my drawing is not. But you basically like split it up into like 15 little pieces, and the 1/2 of the circle is now going to be 15/30ths. And once you've converted all of your fractions so they all have the same denominator, meaning that all of the, like if these were pies, if all of the pies are split up into 30ths, then you can add them together because all of the pieces are the same size. And so then you'd say, okay, well, 18 plus 15, that's 33, I think. And 33 plus 20, that would be 53. And so my answer is that I have 53/30ths. And again, you could reduce this or change it into a mixed number if that would be helpful. And this is kind of cool because this is the same process that you use when you're adding fractions when they have polynomials in them. So you don't have to do this in this video by any means. This is a more advanced algebra topic. But when you do learn how to add rational expressions, it follows the same process. It's just kind of like the polynomial version of that. So if you want to, you can check out my video about how to add rational expressions if you're curious about that. But basically the idea with adding fractions is that you add the numerators together and the denominator just stays the same. If you do not have common denominators to start with, then you have to find the least common denominator, and you can watch my video about how to do that. Then you find equivalent fractions, and I have another video about that as well. And then after you've found the equivalent fractions, so like in this problem, we found that 6/15ths was equivalent to the 2/5, 10/15 was equivalent to the 2/3. Then you can add the numerators together and reduce if needed. And that's how you add fractions.
I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know how easy this was in the comments below, and then subscribe for more easy math videos. You may also want to check out my fractions playlist. And if you'd like more help with your math homework, you can go to mathtutoringonline.com to ask a question or book a one-on-one tutoring session. See you soon!